And we're working out a contract with the EU. It hasn't been finalized yet. So. Sorry? I think he knows. I have no idea. I don't know who's doing it. That's the part I don't know, Karen. I don't know if you can do it from my laptop, though, can you? Yeah. So this is a sad night because we're remembering Tisha B'Av. I don't know if Cantor mentioned. You can start a little sad music whenever you like, and keep it going to my comments, and whenever you want to play it. This. As most of you know, we often have fairly lively services here at Kol Tikva. And if you were here last week after a pizza and salad dinner, we had a lot of excitement in the room. But tonight's not a night for excitement, because tonight we're focusing our service on Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, which starts tomorrow evening. And it's known as the saddest day in Jewish history. And so tonight will be more somber. I promise you next week will be a bit more upbeat, because we'll be, focusing on Tu B'Av, the Jewish version of Valentine's Day. Let us remember that 2,607 years have passed since the Babylonians ransacked the first temple and dispersed us from our homeland and from Jerusalem. Tisha B'Av is named for the 9th day of the month of Av and is an annual fast day that begins tomorrow. It commemorates the destruction of both the first and second temples in Jerusalem. The first and second temples, they were destroyed 656 years apart on the same calendar day. Accordingly, Tisha B'Av has been called the saddest day in Jewish history. And as we were exiled after the first temple's destruction, we went to Babylon. And at the edge of Babylon's rivers, we said the following words: "At Babel's rivers, there we sat and there we wept. There we remembered Zion. There, besides the river's willows, we hung up our harps, because our captors there demanded us words of song. And those who mocked us called for sounds of joy. Sing for us one of the songs of Zion." How can we sing a song of Zion's strength upon a foreign soil? If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, may my right hand forget its strength. Let my tongue cling thickly to my palate. If I ever fail to keep you in my memory, if I should ever fail to hold Jerusalem above my highest joy. In a moment, the Cantor will be singing these words. And as she does, I'm going to go forward and light a memorial candle. And for those of you who have been to the service in the past, usually we have 2 trays of candles, one white, one yellow, and one for Shabbat, one for memoriam. And we have you light them. But because of what has occurred over the last 14 months, tonight I will light a candle as a representative, of this community. But besides remembering Jerusalem, in today's world, after all that has happened over the past almost 2 years, I can't just mourn the historical loss of Jerusalem. I must mourn the loss of life that has occurred all around us, from a pandemic, from a fire, from riots, from wars, from collapsing buildings. Yes, we think of Jerusalem, but let us also think about the health and the safety of our world. Like our ancestors, let us weep as did they near the waters of Babylon. Cantor. We turn to page 674 for Sayanai. I lift up my eyes to the mountains, for from where will my source of comfort come? They come from others who give me comfort as I journey through my pain. Sayanai. Dan and Bunny, would you mind lighting our Shabbat candles tonight? We'd be honored to have the two of you do it. We are on page 120 for the candle lighting. And while we remember all those terrible tragedies that occurred on the 9th of Av, well, we also light our Shabbat candles, remembering the joy of Shabbat. We allow it to enter this room, to enter this space, to enter our hearts. La 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 Thank you, Dan, and thank you, Bunny. The book of Lamentations is called Echa in Hebrew. And Echa means how. How did this occur? How did this tragedy come to be? And continually the prophet Jeremiah says, Echa, Echa, Echa. How? I'm sure many of us have been in that situation where that becomes our primary word. How did we find ourselves in this place? How did we find ourselves in this situation? How? The prophet Jeremiah wrote 5 poems that comprise this book of Lamentations. And he wrote them, focus on that mourning, that loss of Jerusalem. So tonight, Cantor is going to chant the first 6 verses, and then afterwards, she and I are going to read the first 6 verses, and then, a small bit from the end. Cantor.
ישבה ודד, העיר רבת עם, הייתה כאלמנה, רבתי בגויים, שרתי במדינות, הייתה למס, בכותי תבכה בלילה, ודמעתה על חייה, אלה מנחם מכל אוהביה, כל רעיה בגדובה, היו לה לאויבים, גלתה יהודה מעוני ומרוב עבודה היא ישבה בגויים, לא מצא מנוח, כל רודפיה השיגוה בין המצרים. דרכי ציון נבלות, מבלי באי מועד, כל שעריה שוממים, כהניה נאנחים, בתולותיה נוגות והיא מרלה. היו צריה לראש, אויביה שלו, כי אדוני יגאל רוב פשעיה. עולליה הלכו שביל לפני צר, ויצא מבת ציון כל הדרה. היו שריה כאיילים, לא מצאו מרעה, וילכו ולא כוח לפני רודף. Eicha, how lonely sits the city that was full of people. She has become like a widow, she that was great among the nations and princess among the provinces has become a vassal.
She weeps bitterly in the night, and her tears are on her cheeks. Among all her lovers, she has none to comfort her. All her friends have dealt treacherously with her. They become her enemies.
She has gone into exile because of affliction and because of great servitude. She dwells among the nations. She finds no rest. All her pursuers overtook her in the midst of her distress.
The roads to Zion mourn, because none come to the appointed feasts. All her gates are desolate. Her priests sigh. Her virgins are afflicted, and she is in bitterness.
Her adversaries prosper, for the Eternal has afflicted her for the multitude of her transgressions. Her infants have gone to captivity before the enemy, and from the daughter of Zion, all her splendor is departed.
Her princes have become like deer that find no pasture, and they are gone without strength before the pursuer.
You, O Eternal, are enthroned forever. Your throne is from generation to generation. Why do you forget us forever and forsake us for so long?
Turn us to you, O Eternal, and we shall be turned, and renew our days as of old. But you have utterly rejected us. You are very angry against us. Take us back, O God, to yourself, and let us come back. Renew our days as of old. Very sad, isn't it? Think about being forced out of your home. Think about being forced to leave because of strife, because of overpowering enemies. That's what they felt. They were forced out and they had nowhere to go. I recommend that everyone open up a Tanakh tomorrow after the sun sets and open up the book of Lamentations. It's only 6 poems. If you can read it, you can read it in under 10 minutes. And it's worth taking a moment to do just that. And then to think about the struggles of so many in this world who have no home, no place to go, who are nationless. And think about how we were in that predicament back in 586 BCE. So now let us rise for the Baruch, the call to worship. We are on page 146. Please rise. Please remain standing for the Shema. Let's take a moment to quiet our bodies. Let's stand on our feet and feel their connection to this floor and then to the ground below it. If we're able, let's stand as tall as we can with our chests rising and our backs falling. And let's take that deep breath in and hold it and let it out. Another deep breath in. Hold it and let it out. One final breath in before the Shema. Breath in. Hold it and let it out.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malachuto
You may be seated. We continue with the Vahafta found on page 154.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
One of the most important stories found in our Torah is the story of the 12 spies. They weren't even spies. They were actually just 12 tribal leaders. And we had left Egyptian slavery. We had built armies. We had elected judges. We formed governments and systems and a society all within a year. It was amazing. And then God said to Moses, send in those 12 tribal leaders. Send them into the land of Canaan to scout it. And they scouted it for 40 days. And then they came back and they said, the land is amazing. It's filled with milk and honey, but it's also filled with Nephilim, with giants. We will be destroyed if we enter the land. And the Torah teaches us that that night the people wailed and cried and said to God, why did you take us out of the land of Egypt? At least we were safe there. Rabbi Yochanan taught that night, the night the people wailed, it was Tisha B'Av. And God said to them, you weep for no reason. And so I shall set this day for you as a time for weeping throughout the generations. We wept unnecessarily. We should have had faith. And so God said, when tragedy occurs, it will occur on this date. It teaches there is a time to weep, but when you do weep, make sure it is at the appropriate time. It teaches this story to focus on the good, on the land flowing with milk and honey, and not on the Nephilim, the giants. And it teaches us to not fear, and to not let fear control us. Now we're going to sing the Mi Chamocha, a song we normally sing with a lot of joy in our hearts. But tonight we remember these 40 years of wandering. Because those 40 years of wandering come from this story, because God said, for each day you scouted, you shall wander the desert for 1 full year. 40 days of scouting, 40 years of wandering. The Mi Chamocha.
Oh
If only Tisha B'Av was limited to the story of the spies and to the destruction of the first and second temples. But it's associated with other great tragedies that befell the Jewish people. This date became key within our history. In 70 CE, it's the date that the razing of Jerusalem occurred. It's the date that the failure of Bar Kokhba's revolt against the Roman Empire occurred. It's the date that the expulsion of Jews from England in 1290 occurred. And then in 1492, we were expelled on the state from Spain. And in 1914, World War I began on the state. A tragedy for the entire world. And in 1942, on this date was the beginning of the deportation of Warsaw Ghetto Jews to the Treblinka extermination camp. I could go on, the list of what happened on this date. Well, it's long. And then for events, sad events that had no date, we just had a memory of them, they became associated with Tisha B'Av. But no matter where we were, no matter what tragedy was befalling us, we might have been forced out of Spain or England or Portugal. We might have been starting World War I, or God forbid, going to Treblinka. We had Shabbat. Shabbat did not care about walls or cities. It didn't care about where we were. It just came. And it came and it protected us. And because it's on a calendar, it can't be destroyed. So no matter where we were forced to go, Shabbat went with us. It was always our shelter of peace. Hashki Venu, page 160. We turn to page 371 for Misha Berach. We say the Misha Berach for those who are ill of mind, body, or spirit. We say it to place them within this community and within our hearts. We say it because we want people to know that there's someone we love and care about out there who needs support, who needs love, who needs healing. On tonight's Misha Berach list, Sarah Alone, Pamela Abraham, Jim Banlin, Ron Beatty, Gil Cherish, Miles Dietz, Debbie Dunner, Diane Fantel, Martin Finling, Sharon Friedman, Pearl Ginsburg, Lindsay Haynes, Bonnie Halpern, Jessica Israelite, Herb Jaffe, Michael Jesser, Sarah Knopf, Mark Mann, Jackie Jean Michaels, Laura Mitchell, Milt Morris, Joni Morse, Sylvia Nemiroff, Bryn Pine, Wendy Rosenblum, Jim Ratch, Russell Ratch, Wayne Shaw, Marvin Sagerman, Gail Silva, and Nancy Hill. We also say this prayer for those who are caring for those who are ill. So if you're a caregiver, know that you are doing what is right, and know that you are also included in this prayer. If you have additional name for our Misha Berak list, please share it with me now. May the God of our ancestors grant refuah shlema, a complete and full healing to all those named tonight, and to all those we hold in our hearts. And together we say, Amen. The singing of Misha Berach. Please rise for the Amidah. It is found on page 164. Let us remember, to always act as if we want to do God's work, because we believe that the godly is placed onto this earth because of the actions we take. And so as we recite the Amidah and we ask for a beautiful Shabbat, we can create a beautiful Shabbat. As we ask for peace, we can create peace. Let us remember that holy actions are within our grasp and are within our ability to accomplish.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid eilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah. האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומר חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה הכל אתה, רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יעללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
We continue silently to page 180. When you're done with your silent prayer, you may be seated.
Comfort us in the wilderness. Comfort us as we struggle to take care of one another. Comfort us in our wilderness. Comfort us as we struggle with this world.
The 9th of Av is a time to remember Jerusalem. Jerusalem and so many tragedies that took us from places and people we loved. And last week I touched upon the idea of Jerusalem being a home in the specific, that place in Israel, and Jerusalem being our home, wherever it might be found, a metaphor for our homes. And I thought how apropos that was and how I should have saved that idea for tonight, but I did not. We are a people who remember. We are a people whose foundation is remembering. And on this, day of remembrance, we remember the mistake of the spies, the loss of Jerusalem, the destruction of the first and second temple, the failure of the Bar Kokhba revolt, the expulsions from Spain and England, the War of Independence that occurred in 48, which led to the dividing of Jerusalem, and so much more. Each moment, remember, brings us back to Jerusalem, the physical or the metaphorical, us wanting to return to a place where we see family in its history, where we see comfort in its history, a place that we feel is home. The physical Jerusalem. After Bar Kokhba's revolt, Jerusalem fell out of our control for over 2,000 years. And we were only left with a memory. So we yearned for her, our Jerusalem. I have to remind you, though, while we lost Jerusalem, we never left Israel. That's a fallacy to say that there were, a Jewish absence from Israel. For the moment we returned with Joshua after our years of Egyptian slavery and our years wandering in the desert, there have always been Jews in Israel. We might not have lived in Jerusalem, but we always lived in the Galilee. We were present. And often, when we were present, it was a difficult life. Even in Jerusalem, some Jews returned, but it was so desolate that they could not survive easily. But there were golden ages, like Sfat in the 16th century. But no matter where we were, we always dreamed of a time when Jerusalem would once again belong to us politically. A Jerusalem that was beautiful and united. So we go to 1948 when Jews were given sections of the land of Israel to govern, to have as their own. But even as we were given Israel, even as we fought battles against our invading neighbors, that old city of Jerusalem fell into the hands of the Jordanians. And even though, I could stand at Hebrew Union College and see the dividing line that kept us from the old city. You could see that dividing line. But finally in 67, we regained the old city. And Jerusalem was united for us, for the Jews. So we had Jerusalem, we had the wall, or we do today. But what do we do with them? How do we reflect who we are while we control these ancient ruins that fill our hearts and souls with love and pride and the sense of our Jewish identities? And so lately I've been struggling with a very difficult question. How do we create a Jerusalem that is as meaningful to us as to the Palestinians? As I watched yet another war break out this spring, my heart broke for the loss of life that occurred on both sides. No parent wants to lose a child. No child wants to lose a parent. Each human life that is lost is nothing short of a tragedy, and I kept thinking, not again, not again, not again. From my perspective, Israel is no longer under the control of foreign invaders. So while we mourn the tragedies of the past which occurred on this date, we also celebrate our good fortune to live in a world where Jews are once again in control of their homeland. Our good fortune. But with that responsibility of good fortune comes the question of, what does our city look like? How should its values reflect our values? How do we create a space that respects every variation and flavor of Judaism? How do we create a community that is inclusive of those who don't practice our faith, but who is connected to this holy city as we are? I have no answers. I've watched the secular nature of this conflict. I've watched the finger pointing. I've gone to AIPAC conference after AIPAC conference and know the history. Yet my heart breaks every time warfare occurs. My heart breaks. And I feel so sad for the citizens, knowing they're being controlled by governments that are making decisions that they cannot, have any input into. So I have no answers. So instead, I'm focusing my heart on the joy of having Jerusalem as part of our lives, while also remembering that a love of Jerusalem is not reserved just for Jews. A love of Jerusalem is not reserved just for Jews. I can't stop someone else's heart from loving Jerusalem. I can't look into someone else's heart and say, that's wrong, you're wrong. But what do we do? And how do we solve this problem so Jerusalem reflects, the identity that we see in it? Identity of people coming together, identity of being one, an identity of peace and harmony. How do we ever get there? Tisha B'Av is about mourning, but it's also about reflecting on a vision of our future. Let us think about the tragedies of our past. Let us realize that we're not the only culture or religion that is on a journey of tragedies. Let us see in our plight and our struggles the plight and struggle of others. And realize that we're told in the Torah that we should be a light unto the nations. How do we become this light so everyone can find their Jerusalem, be it physical or metaphorical? My blessing for each and every one of you tonight. May we find a way to take the joy of Jerusalem found in our hearts and share it with others. And together we say, Amen. It's my honor to ask Roland to come forward, who is our ECC board member. He is a bit older than most of our ECC students, but we're going to let him speak. It's a little past his bedtime now. You need to use a mic, otherwise they won't hear you on Zoom. On Zoom, yeah.
Can you hear me now? I was just going to say it's so lovely to see faces that I've only seen in gallery view, live and in person. And so nice to see new congregants here. And it's lovely to see friends that are like family. In honor of the evening, I'm just going to make it brief. Most of you are online. You know where we send the emails to. We have Beach Shabbat that's coming up July 30th. It's going to be at Lifeguard Tower 2. You can find out all that information, obviously, online. The high holidays are a couple of months away, as I'm sure you all know. Schedule your tickets, and I mean, you know what to do. It's now officially the new fiscal year, which means it's also time to renew your memberships. Again, knowing most of the people in this room, not only have you renewed your memberships, but you've helped a lot throughout the years. And that's going to be the announcements. It's lovely to see you all.
That was a new record. What the? If you've never been here before, please stand up for a moment. If you don't mind, we don't want to. You've not been here before, Vicky? I think if your name is Vicky and you've been here before, please stand up. Please. Welcome. So everybody, make sure you talk to a face you don't know. As I've been saying, if our board members could stand up, or maybe to a mask you do not know. These are our board members, 1, 2, 3, 4, who are present tonight. If anyone has any questions about what's going on between mask wearing, classes, etc., they probably have no answers for you, but at least they can get the questions to us. We turn to page 598 for the Mourner's Kaddish. And our hearts turn to those we love, those who death has taken from us. On our recently departed list, Daniel Wright, remembered by the Rapport family. Murray Weiner, remembered by the Leiterman family. Shirley Garson, remembered by the Garson family. Charlotte Bernstein, remembered by the Newborn and Bernstein families. And Beverly Levine, correct? Levine? I believe it's Levine, remembered by the Rapport and Ryder families. We also think about those that died during this season in years past. Vera Barad, Harold Eldon, Rick Essex, Arlene Frischman, Eva Glick, Ted Heimlich, Arthur Oliver Hutton, Felicia Sue Castle, Erwin Levinson, Morris Levitt, Crana Levitt, Leonard Lebarkin, Susan Marks, Claire Menken, Jack Oren, Turin Purdavurudi, Burden Rockoff, Clarence Shockley, Yetta Weissman, Jeanette Weissman, and Murray Weiner. If you have an additional name for our Kaddish or a Yortzeit list, please share the name with us now. Adam, are there any additional names on Zoom? All right. If you're in the first 7 days of mourning, please rise. If you're in the first 30 days of mourning, Shloshim, please rise. If you're in the first year of mourning, please rise. If you're observing a Yortzeit, please rise. These are the mourners in our midst. Please rise to show them your love and support. We are on page 598. Page 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabba v'amad divrach chirutei v'amlich malchutei v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei v'kol Beit Yisrael b'gala v'zman kari v'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevarak Leolam Lamei Amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei Dekudsha Baruchu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechamata. Damiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba min Shmaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mamav. Hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'yimru. Amen. May the one who makes peace on high grant peace to all who mourn, to all Israel, and to all humankind. And together we say, if you are comfortable, put your arm around the people near you. If you are not, then let them know that you're not comfortable. Everything is permissible. Just communicate with others. We're going to do our closing song. No, we're actually going to, are we doing a Hatikva or Oseh Shalom? Oseh Shalom. We're going to finish the Oseh Shalom.
Oseh shalom b'mamav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'yimru amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Vicky, would you like to hold our Kiddush cup tonight? We're all going to hold up our imaginary Kiddush cups. Normally we give out the little cups. I keep saying this, last week and this week. We're not giving out any food of that type. We do have challah as you walk out the door in little bags, is that correct? And a little oneg. You can stand in the other room and talk and chat, but we're sort of handing you food for right now. Hopefully in a few months we can go back to a more social environment. I apologize for that. Sure, yeah.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פרי הגפן לחיים.
Take a little drink. It's grape juice. You can drink it. It's not. You don't like grape juice? Oh, it's only grape juice.
Perfect.
With a shot of tequila. And can you hold up our challah, Vicky, and cover it and hold it up? Aren't they cute, those two challahs? Here we go.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם המוציא לחם מן הארץ בתיאבון.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
everybody.
Turn to the people to your left, to your right. Turn to the people in the other sections. Wave.